Welcome back to Watching the Throne on the Late Night Chat Network, Episode 3, Lord Snow.
I've
All right, welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back.
Apologies for missing you guys last week. I was coming down with a little bit of a cold. Jay is kind of suffering through one right now as we speak as well. So bear with us. You know, it is flu season and all that, and the weather's changing. So this is a weekly show still. And, 99.9% of the time, I guarantee you will come out every week. But once in a while, once in a while, that 0% there, that will occur occasionally, right? So, but we have a long run of these episodes to go still. And like I said, if we put these out weekly, we'll be doing this well over a year of this show here, watching these episodes for you guys. So you got lots to look forward to. So we're back. We're going to be back to our regular scheduled programming here with this weekly stuff. We just missed a week, so apologies about that.
On Nico's behalf, fuck, man, this guy waited till the last minute. That's why he was fighting it right to literally the last minute, and then he just couldn't do it. So
Yeah, I just thought that there was so much. I looked at my sheet. I was like, I got three pages of notes here in terms of like the overview of the episode. So I'm just like, there's a lot of things to talk about here. So I didn't want to do a shit job. So there you go. So we figured we reschedule, and so here we are. Anyways, let's get into it. This is episode 3. Lord Snow is the title of this episode. Season 1, of course. And Jay, again, to jump in if there's anything I miss here or whatever, the quick questions you have as we go, and we'll kind of give you our overall thoughts here at the end, guys. We're just going to do a quick overview of the episode as we normally do. So here we go. So it opens up with Ned Stark traveling to visit. Well, at first he runs into Jaime Lannister at the Iron Throne there. He's going obviously to visit I guess Robert Baratheon there, the king, but he comes across Jaime that's sitting there at the Iron Throne, and they kind of have a little back and forth, these two. Jaime, as he does so well, talks a bit of shit.
one talking, and then they start talking about the Mad King and all that. Right? So that was interesting. When I noticed he was specific about talking about the butcher's son, about what happened there.
I was gonna say, this is the first time that Jaime, you really hear him kind of reference the shit that went down with him being the King Slayer and everything else, and about with the Mad King being on the throne previously, and him defending him at that time as he was king. And as a result, he ended up killing Ned's father and his brother in that melee. And that he kind of, he mentions that he's like, he in his eyes, he's like, listen, I was defending the king. So, shit happens. Like, I'm sorry, I like them too. There's nothing I could do. Right. And then he's kind of like, oh, so he just thought it was wrong for him to side with him of all people at that time. And Ned kind of was not there to do something about it, I guess. So it sticks in his craw a bit. He obviously has an issue about it, and he has disdain for Jaime, clearly, because he killed his family, right? So I there's a little bit of
remorse. Bad blood, yeah,
absolutely. So
and you can see that they're talking around it really well. They're talking around the whole, killing his father and his brother at the same time. They're talking about it really, he's got to be smart about it too. Ned himself too. He's talking to the king there at the time, right? So
yeah, so they reference in passing when he has to watch the Mad King die, Aerys Targaryen, who was the Mad King, which again, I'm sure at House of the Dragon, we'll eventually get to some sort of a setup for that whole scenario, because this is stuff that happened even prior to Game of Thrones, right? So that's kind of what I've been most looking forward to. I keep trying to figure out how that's going to come about in House of Dragons. So this is something, Jay, that you will also be interested to kind of learn more about, I think, in that show, going back to it after learning about some more about that Targaryen bloodline from Game of Thrones, right?
Especially this first season too, right? Where they're
Yeah.
so close to back with what the House of Dragons is. So
Yeah, so they talk about that. You know, Jamie served him, and he talks about he talks about there's a line that's thrown out there about the king shits and the hand wipes. He's like, there's nothing I could do. He's like, what do you want? Like, like he's like,
there's some good quotes, bro.
yeah. So anyways, it cuts from that to us meeting two new characters, Lord Varys. We meet some of the other lords there, and Lord Baelish. Now these are big characters moving forward, Jay. These guys that you meet. There's another lord or guy there in that scene too. What I didn't catch his name. I don't know if you did. There's a third guy, but he's not as nearly as important as these two people, gentlemen. So they kind of stood out to me. But yeah, those are the two people that you meet here. And then you also get meet the Grand Meister or whatever. The Grand he serves the king essentially as well in King's Landing. So like,
okay.
Yeah, and you're meeting more people that are part of his inner council at King's Landing now, because this is where we know that he was traveling to Robert because Robert had asked for him, and here he is. Ned shows up. And Robert's nowhere to be seen, right? So he's kind of like, what the fuck's going on here? And he's running into his inner council people, his lords that help represent other their own people at the table, at the round table, like you see in House of the Dragons. Like you have all those people with the balls in front of them speaking around that conference table when they have those meetings, essentially with all the different types of like kingdoms or whatever.
Kingdoms,
right?
yeah.
Exactly. So that's exactly what the lords there are representative of, right? So so you see those people, and then they kind of get in this whole conversation because now, as he is the hand of the king, Ned, essentially, that's what he's basically there for right now. He's there to serve him. He sits at the table, and they start, talking about things. They started about talking about starting up a tournament and in the town there, and they want to award prizes. So then he's like, okay, well, say the crown, let's say make it 6. So he's like throwing out all these numbers, and all of a sudden the lords are like, oh, hold on, I don't know if we should do all this. We don't really have money to be throwing around like this. And like Ned looks at them like they're fucking crazy. He's like, are you serious? We have all kinds of money. What are you talking about? And then he's just like, well, the crowd is 6 million in debt. And then you find out that there's 6 million in debt to the Lannisters, of course, because now they're in the Lannisters' pocket, right where they want them, essentially, right? So like that's something you learn from this conversation, that the crown itself doesn't have money, right? Like, so it's
it's kind of weird when you think about it, right? Like, I mean, these guys are smart. You gotta be careful. They're little sneaky fucks.
But that's the thing. I think from that brief interaction you have at this point in time, you can tell that the rest of these guys are all yes men. They don't really have Baratheon's, like they have Baratheon's ear, and a lot of them are really kind of calling the shots, it seems like, around the table there, right? But like Ned comes there and he's trying to try to get shit going, and he can't even do that. You know what I mean? Like he's like, what the hell am I doing here? He's like, I'm the hand of the king now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what do you mean we can't do this, right? So he's just taken aback by all this, right? To the point where he has to like apologize to the lords because he's fucking, he's like, hey, what do you mean?
He's really opening his mouth, man. Like he's not, he's kind of stepping out of place when you got the lords there.
And they try to put a stop to that. And he's like, no, he's like, listen, nothing's happening until I speak to Robert. Like, he's like, I am going to speak to him. I'll sort all this out. He's like, nothing's happening. He's like, no. Like, cause they're trying to make moves and fucking put the kibosh on like what he has planned and everything else. And he's like, no. Like, I'm going to talk to him. We're going to sort this out. Like, don't worry about it. This guy has this is his problem. Ned's problem, Jay. This guy has too much trust in this fucking guy. This guy, he's too trusting. This guy, I feel like, you know what I
Who,
mean?
Ned
Like,
himself?
too trusting of a guy. Like it seems like he believes a lot in his king, right?
Mhm.
But unfortunately to a fault because I think as the
Just
episode
like anybody.
yeah, but as you can see, yeah, but that's what I mean. You put your faith in your leaders, right? And obviously, if he's serving his leader, then he thinks that he's doing the right thing by being at his side. But I clearly, Robert is not that fit as a leader. You can tell as the episode goes on more and more, right? So
He's kind of a little bit, yeah. He's a little bit much, Robert, the one that he's protecting.
yeah,
He's a little bit for a leader. You know what I mean? He's a little bit far fetched and out there. Like, I mean, he's always fucking drinking, and he's always, you know what I mean? He's a little bit, he's kind of the party animal of the bunch. It looks like,
right,
right?
yeah. So then, then there's a whole thing about Cersei talking to Joffrey. It kind of cuts to her, and she's talking to him about how she's like she's gonna continue to protect her son, and the son basically even says that he's a little bitch. Like his son even's like, yeah, do I have to be friends with her? Like Sansa, like he doesn't want any part of that anymore. This whole situation, right?
Yeah.
And she reassures him by the end of their lengthy conversation here in this scene that basically like she has his back no matter what. It's that Lannisters above everybody. Even if they get into it with the Starks, fuck them. Like we're the Lannisters, and
Nobody's above us.
yeah. So she kind of gets in his head a little bit and makes him. I think it's gonna contribute to him being even more of a little shit because like on his own, he's kind of like already like after that whole last incident, it's just like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'm really fit for all this shit. Like, you know what I mean? And she's like, no. Like, don't worry. Like if you end up want to be with this person or you want to be with a bunch of whores, so be it, or whatever the hell she says, something like that, right? She says, if you rather fuck
I don't know the line she
all
uses.
your painted whores. That's what she talks about. All like the whores in the paintings, essentially, right? So like, yeah. So like, she basically says like, no matter what, you're my son, and I got your back, and everything else, and his head's getting big, I think, as a result of this. Like she can see that he was backing down, because of the little incident from the last episode, and she's just trying to justify it and say like he shouldn't feel bad about anything. And I think she's adding to the problem of this character already, right? The mother in this, she's a little overbearing. This one,
I've noticed that too. That's the one with the red hair, right?
this is Cersei, the queen.
Yeah, where is she? I'm still getting used to the.
Yeah, so Cersei is the queen, his mother, and she's Robert's wife right now. And the one that's fucking Jamie, and yeah, that's who I was referring to there.
Yeah,
and Sansa,
I see it. I'm still trying to get the pictures together, man.
Sansa is Stark's daughter.
Okay.
That's the one that he was trying to fuck with last episode, and with the wolf and everything, right? So. And then you cut to Arya. They talk about how she wants to kill Joffrey now. She blames Sansa for what happened with the wolf. And Ned gives her a doll. Sansa doesn't want it. She basically, she says that, she's too old for that shit. And he makes a comment about how war is easier than daughters. Like he's really having trouble with Sansa and Arya because they're so much different than one another as well, right? Like one, as the episode progresses, you see that even more so. And I think he finds it easier to deal with Arya than he does Sansa because Sansa needs a more of a mother, I think, figure at this moment in time. And he understands what Arya is going through because Arya just wants to train and learn how to use a sword, and he wants her to know how to protect herself because of it seems like he sees a bit of her in himself in her. You know what I mean? So I think like by the end of the episode, the way the episode ends, he's kind of just watching her from a distance as she's training with the sword. And I really like that scene. I thought that was really
it's kind of two-sided, that scene, though, if you go all the way up to that one. It is kind of you thinking of it like that, and I'm thinking of it like as he's seeing her as dying.
Well, I think you're right. I think you can see it from that. I think he is proud in that moment, but at the same time, he also he's coming to the realization exactly that
she's gonna be a woman, yeah, whatever.
But he knows he'd rather her. That's why he'd rather her get trained for it. You know what I mean? Like, because he knows that's where it's going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I hear you. He, as a father, there is the fear there, of course. But I think like,
but if she wants to protect herself, he's gonna let her learn.
exactly.
Especially if he's gonna let her learn by the right people.
I respected that. I really liked that about him in this episode, right? So, because at first he's kind of hesitant of it, but then he kind of commits to it in this one. So,
yeah.
And
Sorry
then
for jumping ahead there. Yeah, just because it reminded it was kind of remembering of that scene too.
Sorry,
it was it was a reminder of that scene. So.
Yeah, and then he says that Needle is Arya's sword. This is again, she talks to him about the sword. She's got the name for it, Needle, and she speaks to her father about learning to protect herself, like wanting to know how to use the sword and everything else, right? And then you cut to Bran. Now we're checking in on all the kids, as you can see. Bran is still bedridden. They have like a nursemaid woman, like an old lady there, and she's telling him,
weird, eh?
yeah, she's telling him, she's warning him, she's telling him stories, old housewife tales, I guess, like of about Bran, about the White Walkers. She's talking about the White Walkers, right? So she, again, you're hearing more talk now about there's a lot of White Walker talk in this episode, right?
Yeah.
All right, so then Robb visits them, and he starts questioning Bran, like why he fell. How did he fall? How could you fall? You've never fallen. How did this happen?
It was kind of like, like you've been doing this for so long. You can't just, you're good at this. Basically, you didn't just fall. This is not an accident. This is what I think he's coming to that realization that he's not going to walk again, right?
Yeah, and he doesn't want him to lie about it, and he can tell he's lying about it because he is. Brian says he can't remember anything about it, and he doesn't remember the incident and how it went down exactly, even though he does. And at least I feel like he does, right? And
oh, yeah, he's got that look with his eyes. You can just see that he's not saying something.
And then he makes the comment about how he'd rather be dead than a cripple, right? And he's very upset, clearly, with his current state. So yeah, he's really depressed right now. It seems like Bran. He's he's laid up. He's a cripple now. It's official. He's alive, but he's not living much of a life, right? Already at this early age. So God,
it's gonna be hard back then too. You know what I mean? When you think about it, because I mean, yeah, like they can probably have somebody carry you around. Like what's his name? What the fuck was his name?
In this episode, Hodor. Yes, Hodor is appointed as the man who's going to help him essentially now.
Yeah.
And you get to know him because that is now the person that has to carry him around. Yes.
That's crazy. I guess he's going to be doing this for a while then. If he's in it, I don't want to jump ahead and think too far ahead, but I know.
I mean, he's a cripple, so I mean,
it's pretty much for life.
Yeah.
So that's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, then we cut to the wife. She's still going on her way. The wife of Ned. She's still on her way to warn him about the Lannisters. And when she actually gets to King's Landing, she gets escorted away.
That's the best.
And then she finds out it was Lord Baelish that was trying to whisk her away so she can hide.
Yeah.
And I don't think they really got into it all that much this episode, but I don't know. It's not a huge spoiler, Jay. I'll just say it.
Go ahead.
This guy is very interested in her, Lord Baelish. I think he knows her. If you didn't get that from the brief interaction,
the little vibe.
He loves her. This guy, I think he has a lot of love for her. This guy, right? So
I know he said anything to protect her. He said to Stark, and but it was like a brothel, wasn't it?
Yeah, Lord Baelish is he runs brothels.
So he's basically the pimp in the fucking area.
Yeah, he's quite the character, Lord Baelish. But he
those are outside the walls.
Yeah. But I think he knows her sister, or like he knows that fam, like he knows them well. So like I think you grow to find out in the other episodes. I think that he used to love her, or he still loves her. Like, you know what I mean? Like he has his eye on her. So that's why
something that happened probably when Stark went to war. Possibly, I don't know. We'll find
don't know.
out. I'm keeping my eyes and ears open. It's still new to me, guys. This whole fucking
But
thing.
yeah, he's a smart guy with a lot of connections, though, that knows a lot, and that's what he says too. Like, you know, he already figures out that she's trying to hide from the Lannisters, and he thought that he was helping her out by whisking her away in that fashion, where she was just really upset because she got scared, like she was getting forced against her will to do something, even though she was showing up to see the hand of the king or her husband, right? So she wasn't really too happy about that. And yeah, and then Lord Varys shows up and she mentions the sword to him, and he talks about all his
Dagger, wasn't it?
connections. Sorry, the dagger, yeah. And that's Valerian steel.
Yeah.
As you know, the Valerians from House of the Dragon, the family, right?
Yeah, you only see a couple of them. Yeah.
They're not really a presence at this moment in time in the show, but yeah. So they talk about that, and Lord Varys says he mentions he pulls out the dagger there, and she's like, "Oh, well, since you know so much, tell me, where is this? What is this exactly?" He's like, "Oh yeah, you know, Valerian steel." And he's like, "I'm sad to say, like, I don't actually know where this is." He's like, "Oh, for once, I know something that you don't." He's like, "That's my sword, my dagger." And he's like, and so it turns out, apparently, he lost it during Joffrey's birthday celebration or something like that, and apparently that's when the dagger went missing, right? So yeah, that's what Lord Baelish says, and now he says that she doesn't have much of a story because whatever she says, they're just going to turn on her because of the fact that it's his dagger, and how did she end up with it and everything else, right? So yeah, it that guy, the Lord Varys, he's this guy that has all this kinds of information far and wide. Like, he talks about his little birdies all the time. Like, he has eyes and
Is that the
ears.
bald-headed little chubby brown guy that was like kind of nervous to come out when she came in?
Yeah.
When he was at the brothel there, that was the funny part. But I thought he said it was the midget. It was what's his name? What's the
Tyrion?
No, the small one. Is that his name? Yeah, Tyrion. Yeah, that was his sword, wasn't it? His dagger, whatever. And he lost it in the bet to, or sorry, Thing lost it in the bet to Tyrion.
Right.
Am I right about that? Was that what he said? Because I'm pretty sure I wrote that down. I did write it down, but I'm not sure if I heard it right. Maybe I heard it wrong when they were saying when they were discussing.
I think he lost it. That's where the Lord lost it, I think, was to them during that celebration. That's what I think he was saying. Yeah. But yeah. I mean, it was his to begin with. But I think that's why he's saying is that they have an alibi. They could say that they just got it from wherever, right? Even though it ended up in their hands. So I think they're saying either way, it's their word against theirs, essentially, right now, the Lannisters, the way that it was, you know what I mean? Like, they've figured out a way where
they're gonna listen to the Lannisters before they listen to anybody else, right?
Yeah, he said he lost the dagger to Tyrion during Joffrey's name day. Sorry, not his birthday, his name day celebration.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I thought it was probably
Lord Baelish said, yeah, sorry, I was getting that note here. He said he lost the dagger to Tyrion during his Joffrey's name day celebration. So
look, we're right on the same page.
Yeah, so then they cut to Jon training in Castle Black with the Night's Watch. And then you get introduced to Commander Mormont, I think is his name, of Castle Black. And there's more talks with Tyrion. And, I think we talked about last episode trying to remember what Tyrion did. I think for the I think he escorts prisoners, if I'm not mistaken, because he's escorting two. That was the whole reason for him being at Castle Black, I think, was to escort those guys, the rapist or whatever, to the wall.
Yeah, this guy, he'd rather come to the wall. That's when he had said he'd rather come to the wall than lose his arm or lose his. Remember, he was explaining it to Stark there, right?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, last episode, and I was trying to figure out what was the point of him being there, but yeah, I'm pretty certain that's what he does. But
actually,
yeah, as a result, sorry,
it does make sense now. I see it. Yeah,
but as a result, like, you get a lot of really great scenes still with Jon Snow in this episode, because you see him training, but then you see like a bunch of them picking on Jon Snow, and then when they end up going like in the back, essentially, after getting off of the training ground, like a bunch of them are like fucking with him still, and Tyrion actually barges in on it and puts a stop to the whole fucking thing between the two guys and Jon Snow, right? Which was kind of interesting, I thought as well. Like he kind of saved his ass in that situation as well. I thought that was really interesting.
Well, yeah, I think it was a good timing too, to be honest with you, because he was supposed to bring that letter from the Raven to him, or from the Raven to him. So that's why I think it was kind of good timing that he caught him that way. But he, it's when those guys came back in and he's like, he broke my nose, and he still took a shot at them and said that, hey, it looks better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and he still would have took them all on even after he put his sword away. So that just shows you the balls that kid has.
Yeah.
Right. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, like I said, I feel like he told him that his brother had woke up, right? So he
yeah. Well, he tells him if he sees him to deliver him a message right after they part ways. But that's a little bit later on. But then they cut to Jaime talking to Cersei, and he's trying to convince her that they should be fine. And if the boy doesn't remember, don't worry about it. Like that's what he's claiming. Because now these two are talking because of like the fact that he's woken up, and like she's worried that he's gonna like either come to his senses or to let
then he
somebody
sweet
know
talks.
what he
Then he
saw.
sweet talks her.
And and he basically just he sweet talks her, tells her, I will go to war for you. Like, don't worry about it. Either way, like we're good. Like,
Tell them what they want to hear, bro. Tell them what they want to hear.
Yeah, and then basically it says here Ned will bring truth to Robert if he finds out. Basically, I think they're banking on the fact now, the family like finding out like about the whole shit about that the conspiring that's been going on with the Lannisters. I think they're worried that if he has his ear now, that he says that I'm gonna find out, figure out what the fuck's going on, and I'm gonna bring it to him, and he's like, and then we're gonna deal with this, like essentially, right? Like so he's very very certain that this man has his back. Like he has no doubt in his mind for what he's done for his king and his friend, that no matter what the scenario here, he's going to figure out what's going on. And this is back when after they get all to talking now, the wife now, him, and now the lords and everybody that's kind of now like figuring out that it's probably the Lannisters that are in cahoots against them. Now that he's in this kind of position, though, we got to remember, though, he's in King's Landing where the Lannisters, they're
shit there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they've cemented their name and themselves in that town. Like it's not like you're kind of an outsider here. You know what I mean? So he's kind of coming and stirring it up a little bit.
You gotta kind of watch your step, right? I mean, I think he's doing it pretty smart so far. I mean, but who knows? I mean, it can go any way from here, right? Like
absolutely, this is Winterfell. Like this is King's Landing now. Like you are a stranger to this fucking town. Like
this is not your place.
People know you, and yes, you are the king's hand, but he's really fucking banking on the fact of the king's the king right now. Like he's like, don't worry, I'm gonna see him and we're gonna throw all this out. Like he's very sure of him, of that fact, right? That's what's keeping him going, I think, at this point, right? So
well, I mean, like you said, you're supposed to trust in your king, so you got to see what happens, right?
Yeah, but then they cut to him, and again, Robert's hammered, and he's going on about how he's not afraid of Drago, and he just looks like a drunk asshole and a hothead, right? Like so, like it doesn't. You cut from all this. Oh yeah, we'll get this all sorted, and then you cut to him fucking hammered, and you know what I mean? Like he's just talking shit about an impending war that he doesn't believe in. So anyway, so there's all that going on.
He's making fun of one of the Lannisters' names too, one of the kids' names. Who calls their kid that? And, like as he's asking for some more wine. That was funny. He fucking, what's this? Kid's scared to go get him wine.
He calls Jaime in to have a chat with him. The Kingslayer. Yeah, bring him in. Yeah, we're gonna have a chat, right? And you can tell that Jaime fucking hates the guy because he's married to his sister. So like he's just putting up with them again. That he's because it's a thing, right? But
it's so fake. Jaime's look towards him. It's just he's got that fake He's got that good fake look to him. Like, you can believe me with this trustworthy face, but like look at me, man. Fuck you.
They mentioned their father for the first time this episode. Tywin, the Tywin Lannister is their father, and now we haven't seen him as of yet. He'll be coming up later, but he is mentioned for the first time in this episode, so I'm
I
surprised.
didn't hear that part.
Yeah, he mentions his father when he's having that conversation with him. Then you cut to Daenerys. We're back over to the Daenerys here. She's talking to Jorah Mormont. He's continuing to make his way through the woods. He tells them to translate for their queen, the Khaleesi, to not harm their men, like because he sees one of the men beating up one of the other men. So
He was a prisoner or a slave or whatever.
Yeah. And as a result of all this, the brother gets all pissed because he hears that she's fucking giving out orders, and he's like, "You don't do that. I'm their king. Like, they shouldn't fucking listen to you. Who the hell are you?" So he gets up in his face, and because now that she's the Khaleesi, she's Drago's woman. One of the warriors fucking starts choking the shit out of him and almost kills him, and she has to get him to stop. Like, she has to tell Jorah to translate for him to stop, and he almost kills him because Jorah almost doesn't even fucking tell him, and he's just like, so like, yeah, there's a moment there where her brother almost gets choked the fuck out, like the life out of him there because she taught, and the warrior doesn't understand it, like he's all confused, and Jorah clearly doesn't give a shit about him either. He's just like, okay, yeah, lay off, right? Like, so like, you could already tell that there is a lot of respect being built up slowly for her character. Like, people already are listening to her. They already feel like they respect her more than they do the brother. Like, you know what I mean? You can see it already happening in this one scene. The fact that she's able to throw her influence around and what she likes, you know what I mean? Over they even talk about preparations of meals in this, where the rest of them are eating horse. And like Jorah Mormont's like, no, slay a goat for her, like, because she's like, she doesn't want to eat this horse, like the Khaleesi, like, you know what I mean, like, she doesn't want to eat horse, and he's like, all right, we'll kill a goat for her, don't worry about it, right? So like, you can already see that there's people, she's starting a following of sorts, right?
And their last names are thing, right? Their last names are what's it called? Before she married the
Daenerys. She's a
Targaryen. Yeah, right. You can see
brother.
that cockiness, but from House of Dragon, especially the brother. There's one specific person in that House of Dragons that reminds me of that so far.
Yeah, well, that's why they think they're the rightful owner, like rulers of the throne right now, right? This is the whole thing. This is why they're going to.
Well, I kind of figuring that out now. I'm slowly putting that part together, and that's but it's sounding interesting, right?
Right, and the Mad King was also Targaryen.
Yeah, I got that part of it. I have that part. The Mad King is a Targaryen, but I didn't get his first name. But that's what it was. I just got the last name.
Yeah, so then there's that, and then you get to see Jon. He goes out to visit his uncle there in Castle Black, and again he talks to him now about the White Walkers, and and he tells him that he has to be at the forefront now of the people that have to go out beyond the wall for the reports.
Yeah.
It's his men, it's his group that he has to go out now because he bids him goodbye. And Jon says, "I'll join you." And he's like, "No, like this, I have to go out."
This is when he took that old school elevator up there. Hey, that was pretty cool, eh? Straight up, man.
Well, there's also an underground. Tunnel.
I haven't seen it yet.
Well, at the end of the episode, when he parts ways with Jon, that's what I think it's Tyrion that mentions it. It's one of them mentions it. And in passing, Jay, they say, yeah, okay, well, he's going underneath the wall now because instead of to get over to the other side of the wall, they're traveling under it. He's like, he'll get there in a month or two.
That's what he was referring to, right?
It's about him traveling past the wall. It's going to be a month or two's journey underneath the wall to get there. So it's crazy. It's crazy.
What a dig out if they had to do that back then, right? Eh?
So
heave hole.
So that's them going out into the world there with the wildlings and the fucking White Walkers and whatever else waits for them out there, right?
Yeah.
So you know, and then there's a great scene where Tyrion again, he's sitting around the fire and he's talking about how much admiration he has for them.
Yeah.
And then they're like,
There's
yeah,
some big quotes in that one.
but they're like, but yeah, and he's like, yeah, but he's like, I don't believe in all this shit. Like he just straight up tells them again, he's like, I don't believe this monsters and stuff like that out there. Like, why do you guys feel so strongly about this? Right? Like he's trying to wrap his head around this. Like, even though he says he respects all of them and what they do for the realm and everything else, he just doesn't understand why anybody would believe this shit, right?
Yeah, or believe that there's something out there. In that sense, he even had his own suspicion about it. Eh? And, you know, you can tell he's got some brains, right? In a sense, right? Because he's a special man.
And then there's a talk about how like monsters and wildlings are the same essentially. Like he says, yeah, there are people beyond the wall, the wildlings, and yeah, you know, they're somewhat the same. Like, and then he, you know, there's that whole talk, and then
ancestors, yeah, said that they were just on the wrong side of the wall.
And then it's funny by the end, he's like, oh, I think he's starting to like me. The guy from the Night Watch, right? You know, I think he's starting. I like that. And he's like, and then yeah, they talk about going into their tunnel for it taking 1 to 2 months to travel the other side of the wall.
He was asking about the bear balls.
Yes.
What do bear balls taste like?
Yeah.
Then you had the Danish, or what do they call it? Danish girls? Is that supposed to be Danish?
Oh, I guess.
I guess that's his English accent, right, or whatever.
This is when Tyrion offers to walk the path as he parts ways with the rest of the people there at Castle Black, with the one Night's Watch guy that he was chatting with there, because he's going one way and he's going his way, and you know, yeah, and then you basically just leave it at that, and they have a conversation then about how many winters has he seen during his life. And this is when they kind of get into the whole thing about them living throughout these long winters. These winters is coming, all this shit they always talk about. Tyrion says that he's seen 9 winters. His birth year was a 3-year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you imagine that, bro?
Yeah, it's crazy. 3 years of winter. I know. And then the old man that's there at the Castle Black there, he says, he's like, warns them, winter is coming, war is coming. Like,
it's gonna be a long one.
And there's only 1,000 of them. That's what he says. Like, there's only 1,000 of us. He's like, do you understand what is coming for us? And it's like, we are not ready for it. Like, he's trying to warn them, this old ass man, and he's just like, yeah, whatever. Like, no one believes what's like about to go down, right? Like, it's all like just hearsay at this point, right? And that's, you know, he truly thinks, although he respects them, that they're wasting their time. So, well, we'll see.
I mean, it's true, right? I mean, it's kind of hard because he's like, yeah, you're bringing me all these guys, half of them die in fucking battle, and half of them die in training, and you know, on the way here and shit.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you see a scene with Khaleesi. She's learned Dothraki. You know,
the best was when did you last? What did she ask her? When this is the scene where you find out
that she's changing.
That she's changing.
Yeah. Says, oh, you're turning into you're changing. Like your whole you know, the way she is essentially.
But she does the boob thing too. What did he ask? What was the line that she asked? I was wondering if you had it written down.
No, I don't have that one written down. No, I just thought she was changing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, but that's when she's found out that she's pregnant, eh?
Yeah. Oh, and then another thing that comes out of that conversation is Tyrion, with Tyrion and the Night's Watch people, is they tell Tyrion to talk to his sister to get help. Because he says, like, we only have 1,000 people. Like, we know you have the ear of your sister who knows the king. Like, please, like, throw us some help here. Like, he's like, we could use some help. Like, please, like, go back and speak to her and let her know what's going on down here. And it's one of those situations where, like, it's out of sight, out of mind. Like, I think they're worried that people are forgetting what they're doing out there for the realm, right? So I understand that, right? So, like, and it you know, it rings true to a lot of our soldiers here, right? There's a lot of shit that goes on around the world, and I feel like people don't take notice or care to know because it's not something that they have to deal with firsthand, right? So they're like, oh yeah, don't worry, they got that. You know what I mean? So like, I think they feel like they're forgotten about out there, right?
It's so true. It's sad, but it's so true, bro.
When people take life for granted, right? Like if you can't live your life if it wasn't for, you know what I mean? It's just like about, again, showing respect to you know, veterans and people that on the front lines and shit for you, even in smaller, you know what I mean? Like even dealing with the shit that they're dealing right now with you know, around the world, right? Like different shit with Russia and everything else, right? Like, you know what I
Of
mean? Like
course.
you may only hear rumblings of what's going on, and it might not be shit that affects your day to day as of right now, but doesn't mean that there's not people out there doing shit. You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of like what these guys feel like. And this is in a world where you know, like communication is not easy to get back to King's Landing from.
You gotta always be ready, man, because you
Right.
don't know, somebody can come knocking at the door without you even knowing, man.
Right.
The whole army, right? It's gonna be a hard one, but yeah, I totally get it. I mean, they gotta, you know, there's not enough yet. We don't realize that we take it for granted, even over here.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
they do that too. Then, you know, back in those days, they do. I mean, you can just see it starts at the beginning of time, right? Really, you always take those fucking pawns for granted, as you know, if you want to use it in that
Well,
terms.
they're being totally taken for granted, these guys right now. Like as you can see, Tyrion doesn't even believe. Like half the people don't believe the shit that's actually that they're out there supposed to be trying to defend, right? So
Yeah, no, I know, I hear you.
so yeah, so John says sorry to see Tyrion leave. Says if you see Bran, tell him that I miss him. If you're gonna be if
Yeah, that's a good line that he
you're
uses.
gonna be a cripple, it's best to be a rich cripple.
Yeah, as I was just reading it as you said on the paper, man. I wrote that because you know, he's so right though. He's
Yeah.
not wrong in any way, in no way whatsoever. So I mean, it's kind of sad. I mean, but
Yeah.
it's true, right?
Again, God has already shit on this man. Like he is already like a little
What
person.
has he got to lose?
Yeah,
bro?
he doesn't like this man. Just speaks his mind, Tyrion. That's why
He's
he's
gonna be
that
staying
character.
in the best fun. He's what did he say it to a buddy that was coming for the ride with him? He was saying
Oh
we're gonna
yeah,
be staying at the best whorehouses, and they
yes.
never turn away a Lannister.
Because then that's right. Because they are known throughout. Like that's there's a saying. Uh, there's a saying it hasn't been said yet, and you'll come across it.
Okay. We'll just we'll put a pin in that.
There's a
And
Lannister saying in the
okay,
show that you'll come across at some point that hasn't been said as of yet, but there's a Lannister saying that they're known for. That it's one of my favorite things about the
okay. Well, we'll put a pin in that, and I'll see if I can pick it out and see if when that episode does happen or whatever, when when it first gets popped out, you'll kind of see if I remember that
Absolutely.
question.
And then yeah, like I mentioned earlier, and then the episode ends with Arya. A man shows up and says that she's there for her dancing lessons, and what he's actually there for is to teach her. Her father Ned sent an instructor to her room to teach her how to start the process and her knowing how to sword
Fight.
handle. And he's a very nice gentleman, it seems like, and
Seems like he's got a Spanish accent.
yeah, he's like a conquistador guy or something. Like he's like a Three Musketeer dude.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like he's like
where did this guy come from?
guard. Yeah, no, he's like one of these dudes, right? I don't know. He's cool though. He's a nice dude. So
Yeah.
he starts chatting with her, she takes liking to him, and then they get right into it, like kind of like you know, this is how you
And she whines about it for a second, you know, it's too heavy, it's too this, and then all of a sudden she gets right into the groove.
He's like, it has to be heavy. You need to. He's like, we're all made of water or wood or whatever the fuck.
Water. He said, yeah.
Right, and he's
The
like,
sword was made out of wood, I think.
That's what it was. Yeah. So he's trying to tell her, you know, because they're using the wooden sword right now to basically test her
Strength.
her strength, the way to swing it, and everything else, right? So yeah. And then like I said, from afar, like you mentioned, the father's watching her training in the ways of the sword, and you know, as much as he probably doesn't want to see it, he's happy that she's actually, you know what I mean?
Because I mean, if she learns how to protect herself, I mean, that could be a dangerous thing in her sense too, because she might be wanting to fight,
right?
You know, and he's gonna know that he's gonna end up losing a daughter. Maybe like it's hard. I can understand. That's why I would see that. I can see where the proudness comes in too, because he's she's wanting to take after him in a sense.
Yeah.
Right, but at the same time, he knows how rough of a job it is too, and how serious and how dangerous of a job it is. Right,
I
if you
think
think
it's like
about
any
it that way.
father, right? Like his little
It's kind of
girl's
two
growing
sides.
up. His little girl's growing up, right? So I mean, like you know, as a
He's gonna have
father,
to give her away soon, bro. She's almost old enough over there. Look,
in this show, yeah,
fuck, man.
you know that there's I'm sure as most fathers know, and I'm not a father, but it's one of those things where it's like that there's fucked up things in the world, and you know what I mean. Like you can't protect them all the time. Like you know what I mean. There's a certain point where you gotta at least set them up for success and like give them the tools that they need to navigate through. Like you know what I mean. The world, like despite because
Yeah.
you're not going to be there all the time. Like, you know what I mean? There's a certain point in time where like, no matter what you can do, you can't protect them from everything. You know what I mean? So I think like this is him letting go a little bit and being like, okay, well, I'm going to make sure she knows how to defend herself. Then if that's what she's going to be interested in. Right. Cause she's made it very clear. Right. So yeah, another good episode, man. I don't know what you think of this one.
I thought it was good, man. I thought it was interesting. I'm gonna see. I can't wait. Like I'm starting to like this Tyrion character, man. I mean, everybody's starting to build on me, but I really do like the Targaryen. What's his name? The brother too. I like that cockiness because it reminds me of something like that guy in the new series. So kind of reminds me from somebody from there. But we'll keep that hush hush for now because I want to watch this one and that. I'm starting to see different attributes in him that you see from one character in the first series. So sorry, in the new series. Sorry.
Right.
But yeah, this is we'll have to see where it goes from here because it just seems like it's getting it more interesting. And now that I'm starting to get used to who the characters are and everything, because like I said, IMBD doesn't do nothing for pictures anymore and everything like that. They totally change. Anyways, they've grown up, so you can't even use that anymore as a proper. So I'm trying to write who I'm writing down so I can picture them in my head, and then I'll look around here. I look around here, and then I can remember vaguely.
Yeah.
But it's slowly getting better that way. And, I'm starting to know them physically by looking at them. So it's just putting a name to the face all the time. There's some weird names, so they're not the easiest to learn.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's been a slow burn. I have really enjoyed revisiting everything, though. It is interesting seeing some of the relationships at this point in time to where they get. Also, and to see like
kind of long.
Not just that, it's like how simple the setups of the storylines are at this point and how they kind of spiral out as the series go on, how different characters go in different directions. Literally on the show, like so it's interesting to see this moment in time with all of these people where they're at and the people that are interacting with one another at this time, because everything kind of gets messed up, I think, in a sense from this point on, like after this season, like everything goes in different directions. Yeah, everything goes in different directions after this series. Like all the storylines kind of like you have like at this point, even though there's different people aligning themselves and hooking up with different characters at this point in time, everything's kind of still like everyone's still like, you know what I mean, interacting with one another somewhat at this point. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can still see the finish line in this moment in time on their show. Like this is the objective. These are the players. This is it. And then like when you get into the second season, I feel like one larger scale storyline is going to turn into 8 different storylines. So you're going to see like a big difference in the story, the way that, like, you know what I mean? Like the way they're cutting scenes right now, like there's going to be less interconnectiveness between all of the characters moving forward. But then you're going to be introduced to even more new characters as each one goes off in their own paths. You know what I mean? So you're really gonna see like a lot of interesting stuff sprout up soon.
Well, what I see is that's how I feel like if you're saying slow burn, then this is like this whole first season is going to be like a pilot season in a sense.
Yeah,
in a sense to where they go crazy and out of control with it. But
absolutely, I think the first season stands on its own because there's by the end of the first season,
basic storyline, right?
By the end of the first season, the whole show changes. You're gonna see. I don't want to say why or what's gonna happen.
No, I can see. I mean, everything grows obviously in the world and stuff like that. So I can only imagine where it goes from there. But I could see that this is kind of like, you know how some shows have just the one episode as the plot. The pilot.
Yeah.
This is almost like if you're saying that this is a slow burn, like as I feel like everything they're throwing everything at once, but they're just putting it into a pile, and then I guess which way it's gonna go, and you
Yeah.
got to figure it out afterwards.
Yeah.
Until the end, turnaround, until they come around at the end, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, like you said, it's also like we've talked. It's based on a book, so I could see where that plot kicks in and then turns around. I mean, I could see where it would go in different directions. So
yeah, so I mean, like it's great. Enjoy the characters you enjoy at this moment in time. I will
might
say,
not see for a while. I might not see them after.
as the series goes on, there is a lot of death in this series for sure. There's a lot of death as the series goes on. So I'm saying enjoy.
People die from a cold, for fuck's sakes. If there's winter coming,
Yeah, enjoy the characters you like now, because whether it's the fact that they will die off or it's that the focus won't be on them, that will also happen for some episodes. You know what I mean? So like, really get to know all these people at this moment in time, because I think that's a really good part about this first season is they're it's such a big world that they're kind of introducing you to, and such a rich cast of characters. Like that is one of the best things I think about Game of Thrones that people had spoken about. And also what makes it very hard to get into the first time watching it, because of the fact that there's so many different characters with so many different relationships with one another and alliances and family ties and everything else. And if you don't really have a lot of the context going into it for what you're signing up for, you can lose interest very quickly, because you're like, I don't know who the fuck any of these people are. I don't know what's going on. You know what I mean? So like, I get why this was a hard sell for a lot of people, including yourself, maybe watching it the first go round, because it almost lost me. Just because I was like, this is a lot. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but then, cool things start to happen. You latch on to certain characters like Tyrion early on for me, where I'm like, okay, I need to see what's going on with this guy and his story. You know what I mean? I don't really care about what's going on over here. I don't really care about this person too much, but like, you know what I mean? I got my guys, like my people I want to follow. Like, you know what I mean? So like, you got to kind of latch on to that kind of stuff while
and what's probably is what helped, what changed it too, is that like during like it different for me because I'm not watching it live as it's on air. You know what I mean? Right now, I'm revisiting it for the first time, so I'm visiting it for the first time. Sorry, but yeah, the thing that I'm thinking of is, you know, um, I just had a fucking brain fart. No, oh yeah, I won't get to see like where the people, there would always be in the news of Game of Thrones saying this person got signed for the next season and blah blah blah, like where people had made their contracts and stuff like that. So maybe I won't get to see any of that stuff, and I won't know where it's going. I'll get to base it on my own judgment and stuff because I'm not really watching anything else based on Game of Thrones or looking up anything on Game of Thrones. Just watching the episodes. So this should be interesting for me too as a cell, right? Like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That first time around, it wasn't a sub because, like you said, it's a lot all at once. You know what I mean? And it's, it seems to be quick, and that's the thing. It wasn't for me at the first moment, but no, I'm starting to really enjoy it right now. So I can't wait to see what's going on in the next ones. I know I seen the title was like cripples and some more sort of bunch of different words. Bastards, cripples, and something like that was the name of the next episode. So that'll be interesting.
Let me just look it up here.
I'm pretty sure that's what I seen there, but I'm not sure.
Yeah,
It's on my
cripples,
actual
bastards, and broken things. That is the
Yes.
name of episode 4, guys. And you can tune in to watch that with us next week. We'll be talking about that one as we're again a weekly show, back on our weekly schedule. Sorry for missing last week; it was just due to a cancellation. And so there you go. 3 episodes in, we're both still enjoying it. And stay tuned next week for us, guys. If this is your first time checking out the show, as always, make sure you subscribe and like the channel. Check out all of our different content here, all kinds of different stuff here on the network. Check out our playlists. And you'll see you guys next week.
All right, peace out.
Later.